Hey guys, welcome back to Tremor Trails. Today we are out in the Sonoran Desert, as far south as you could possibly get in Arizona, right on the border. Today we're doing a true historic overlanding trail. This isn't a technical trail, but it's got tons and tons of history. This trail is over 1,000 years old. First used by the Native Americans, then by the Mexicans coming up into North America. The Spaniards used this trail, and unfortunately this is a trail of death. Today we are doing the El Camino Del Diablo. It's a fun trail. It's over 130 miles depending on which route you take. We're going to try and do as much as we can and show you guys what this is all about. This is going to be a fun one. Let's go. All right, El Camino del Diablo. This is going to start in Ajo, Arizona, go to Yuma, Arizona. The trail itself is super long. It's 142 miles. You can do 9 hours, you can do 14 hours, you could probably do 24 hours. It just depends on how much you want to explore of this region. The trail itself is going to be a lot of soft and hard sand, regular dirt, and there are going to be some lava rocks along the way. The modes I used was really just two-wheel drive. I wanted to save on fuel because the road was pretty easy, but in the mountain sections, I did go into mud and ruts. For highlights, there's just several on this trail. Of course, it's an historic trail. It's over 1,000 years old. There's all kinds of graves along the way if you're into that. There's gold mines. Of course, you pass through the Organ Pipe National Monument. There's just so much to see out here. It really surprised us when we got up on this trail. Obviously, you're going to be on the Mexican border, on the wall. There are a few tidbits that you need to know and a pass that you have to get on this trail legally that we will talk about later in the video. Please remember that our cameras have stabilizers on them. The hills are not going to appear steep and the bumps are not going to be as rough. Also remember that we review this and every trail at the end of our video. Now let's go check this thing out. Your first stop of the day is going to be in the Organ Pipe Cactus National Monument. I hope I said that right. You're going to travel this for about 20 miles or so. It's really cool scenery out here. This is the Bates Well where we're at right now. This was a well that was dug in the 1800s, and people for the longest time tried to find gold up in these mountains, but they never really could. They did find a bunch of copper though, and this was pretty much the main site of those mining camps in the 1800s. Let's go check it out. So the actual structure that we're looking at here was moved from Growler Mine to the place where it's at right now in 1942. And it was reused by a man named Henry. And he lived here and raised cattle until his death in 1976. And then they gave this property over to the monument. It's a really cool piece of history out here. The well itself was dug in 1870. Now, throughout the video, you're going to see things look like cell phone towers. You're probably going to see blue flags from time to time. Those are emergency beacons that people can push in case they're about to die out here in the middle of the desert. My goal is not to really comment and talk about the illegal immigration that's happening out on this trail. Unfortunately, not too far from here, 14 people were found dead when their coyote abandoned them. This is a very harsh and remote area, and you should never travel it during the summer. There are graves all along this trail. We don't really hit on that because that's not what we're about. We just want to show the beauty of what this trail is and why you should come check it out. Right past the border guard station, we enter the National Preserve, and you have to fill out a thing at the kiosk, which I will show you right here in a second, and we'll talk about it in a bit. So there's lots of regulations on this trail. Nothing too daunting, though. They just want to know where you are because you're so close to the border. There's a border patrol back here. What you do is you sign in with your registration, and that way they know you're here, and then you have to do a permit online. But we'll talk about that when we get to camp later. But just be aware of that stuff. Anyways, we're now into the National Wildlife Refuge in the Sonoran Desert. There's some endangered species out here and some other cool stuff that we're hoping to see. Good morning. So we got out on the trail yesterday about 3 p.m. We did about 3.5 hours and got to this spot where we're at today. This is kind of like a little rock outcrop place. We are literally, I could throw a rock and hit the border wall. So that's how far south we are. There's a couple little quirks about this trail that you need to know if you want to come do El Diablo. This trail is obviously located right on the border of the United States and Mexico. And also you're going to go through a major active Air Force base down here as well. So in order to travel this trail, you got to get a permit to fill out online, which is super easy. You watch a quick safety video, you fill out all your information, and then when you get out to the trail, there's actually a kiosk by one of the border stations that you sign in your paperwork and then you are free to go. This place is heavy with drug smuggling and of course immigrants, illegal aliens, humans, whatever you want to call them, coming across the border. Don't let the fact of potentially illegal activity down here deter you from doing this trail. This trail so far has been super easy, but that's okay. Sometimes easy trails are fun, but the scenery out here is jaw-droppingly beautiful. I'm not gonna lie. It's like I hear Western music in my head as we drive through these places. It's a really cool remote thing. We're looking forward to seeing what we come up with today out on the trail as we finish it up. I think we have probably around 70 to 80 miles to do today. So let's get back up on the trail, get this tent teared down and go. All right, so we've traveled about 30 miles to 40 miles from the campsite when we left you guys last. The scenery has been incredible. Put this one on your list, guys. So far, this has not let us down. The trail itself is really easy. It's not technical at all, but the scenery makes up for that stuff. Where I'm standing right now is called Christmas Pass. This is a trail that's 7 miles long off of El Diablo itself. This is one of the most epic camp spots you can find, and I don't mind sharing it because I just found it myself and not a lot of people come down here. So I'm gonna map it out on Onyx and it'll be available if you're an Onyx user. Christmas Pass, but this place is really cool. It's in this rock outcrop up against a mountain, and there's tons of places where you can get up and out of the elements, yet the scenery around you is beautiful. We're gonna jump back up on the trail, see what else we can find before we close out the day. We got some clouds coming in. It's not supposed to rain on us at all, so I think they're just clouds heading up towards the north, but let's go see what else we can find. made it to the final leg. We are now in the unexploded ordnance section of the trail. Exciting. Batted 1,000 this year on Desert Rain. We're trying to find a mine to show you guys, so hopefully we can find it. The sun's starting to go down. We probably have about an hour and a half left of daylight. We haven't decided if we're going to sleep again on the trail or if we're just going to head on in. I haven't decided yet. We've been taking our time all day. There's so many cool things to see out here. The scenery's been beautiful. This section of the trail, after we got past the flat graded road, it turned into pretty challenging, which was fun. Nothing super extraordinary, but it did get tight in some spots, and there was a few little rock crawls that I had to do. Anyways, this is Fortuna mine. So I found the mine shaft. It is gigantic. They have a fence all the way around it. I wanted to zoom in. If you want to stop and read that, you can. But this is the mine shaft. It's probably 40 yards. This has been a pretty fun stop. I think we crawl out of the mountains now and we get back down into the desert. We got to be fairly close to Yuma. But like I said, my mileage has been off on this trip. I'm not sure why. I've been following a few different guides, but I don't know when they started their mileage and when they didn't start their mileage. And this is La Fortuna mine. This was a gold mine in 1894 by 3 ranchers and a part-time prospector. Looking for lost or stolen cattle, the men pushed some stones together on a chilly December evening to hold a coffee pot next to their campfire. The next morning, one of the men noticed that the fire had melted what looked like gold from the stones. The men followed the dry wash looking for the source, and they found it. Pretty cool piece of history. The mine went out in 1900, and they had 800 feet originally dug in that shaft, so it went down pretty good long ways. All right, well, let's see what else we can find before the sun goes down, and we'll make a decision whether we're going to stay out here or if we are going to hike it. If we're going to stay out here, if we're going to hike it into Yuma. Let's go. All right, so there we have it, El Camino del Diablo. It was a pretty fun trail. It was a fun 2 days that we were out here. There were some challenging sections, which I appreciated, and there were some really crappy sections as well. But all in all, this was a fun trail. Guys, if you get the chance to come out here and do this one, I highly recommend it.
There's so much history out here that we didn't even get to really touch on all of it, even in our 2 days here. You could probably spend 3 days out here exploring the vast part of what this trail is all about. With that being said, let's get quickly to the reviews. For fun, this was a fun trail when it came to just being out in the desert alone. I would give it a 3.5. For fear, not a fearful road at all. There was 1 or 2 spots where you might get some minor pinstriping, and I mean minor, honestly. As long as you're going through at a slow speed, I wouldn't be worried about it. So for fear, it's gonna get a 1.5. Which leads us into technical. Not a technical trail at all. There were some sections that were a little bit more challenging than others, but the vast majority of this trail is a graded dirt road. They've done a lot of improvement out here because of the Border Patrol, because so many people are crossing the border. They have Border Patrol agents everywhere, and so they have graded tons of this section of road. So for a lot of the times, I was bored as far as the driving went, but the scenery made up for it, which leads us into that. But for technical, because there's a few little whoop-de-doos and a couple little washes here and there towards the Yuma side, I'm gonna give it a 2. For scenery, this was a beautiful trail. I didn't know really what to expect from it. From some of the pictures and some of the videos I saw, it looked pretty kind of just flat and desert, and it really wasn't that. It was a vast, different exchange between flatness and mountains. The saguaros were beautiful. You pass them all the way through this trail. You get into Organ Pipe, which was the first place that we got to yesterday. That was awesome. Really, the scenery out here really surprised both of us. I know my wife had a great time looking at all the cactuses, as did I. So for scenery, it's gonna get a solid 4. Like I mentioned, if you guys get a couple days to get out here right to the border in southern Arizona, do it. It's really fun. Your truck does not have to be modified at all. You can get through this. A Sprinter van probably couldn't get through this, but could get through several sections of it. If you're in your truck or in your trimmer, you're not gonna have a problem at all with it. There's so many places to camp all along the ways. Really, it's just a great time. I was kind of apprehensive and worried about the border being right there and all the things that you're hearing, but we didn't have any problems whatsoever. We didn't see another person. I think on the whole trip, the 130 miles that we did, we saw 2 vehicles the first day, and we saw a group of guys earlier today. That was it. So if you want to be out here alone enjoying the desert, do yourself a favor and try it out. As for us, we got civilization right ahead. We're gonna go into town, eat some dinner, and then get on another trail somewhere in the United States. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments, hit me up down below. I'll do my best to answer it for you. And until next time, we hope to see you guys out here on the trails. Bye.